of Manitowoc. And I just want to let you know that we're live streaming tonight's meeting, and it will be available for viewing on our YouTube channel. This little mechanism in the center of the table is the camera and the microphone. And so it will record everything that's said tonight. But if you would like to come to the microphone to ask your question, the sound quality is better for the residents who are viewing it from home. Or if you want to talk really loud from the room, the microphone may pick up your question. And Jolene will just let us know when it's set up and ready to go.
No, we're good.
Okay, so we are live now. Again, I'm Florence McLean, the Chief Administrative Officer for the Township of Manitowoc, and I'll facilitate the session tonight. To my left is Mayor Jim Moffat, and to his left is Aaron McGregor, our Deputy Treasurer, who will be answering most of your questions tonight. Tyler Brewster is our Director of Public Works, and you may have questions about the water meters, and he should be able to answer those. And then Jolene Keogh is our Clerk, and she'll be taking notes of tonight's session. If you have a question, I request that you state your name for the record. And also just some health and safety features. In the case of an emergency, the emergency exits are behind the TV screen, through the fire hall door, out the main doors, and out onto the Manitou Road in Oswegan. The washrooms are also through the main doors, take a right and then a left. I request that the discussion tonight be respectful, and we understand that there are concerns. My role is to make sure that the process is followed in order to make sure that we give council all the information that's required to help them make an informed decision. And that process means that we have an open, fair, and transparent policy to ensure that the input from the public is received and given to council. We also use an evidence-based approach to provide council with information. So that what that means is that we use facts and data. We look at historic trends, historic costs, and we also look at future projections. And our goal and our role is to provide council with the most and the best decision for all ratepayers, for all residents today and into the future. And so our recommendations to council will always reflect evidence, the facts, and statistics. Aaron's role is to collect that data using our financial software, input from Public Works, and Mayor and Council's role is to make the decision. And that's always based on input from staff in terms of what the evidence has shown and what will be shown. So in order to get started, we're just going to open up the discussion. I'm sure you are here because you know what the discussion is, that the township is looking at moving to a flat rate water system. Council has asked staff to prepare a report showing this and outlining what that would look like for the residents. Council has not made a decision about this, and it will be further discussed at tomorrow night's council meeting. There is a report that was prepared by the Deputy Treasurer. It's available on our website if the residents would like to see the report that council will be reviewing tomorrow night. Is there anyone who would like to come up to the microphone or stand up and have a question? Yes, can you state your name for the record, please?
My name is Doug Darrell. I'd like to speak with regards to a number of comments that I've written down.
Sure. Would you like to sit at the microphone?
Sure. First of all, after reading Deputy Treasurer's report with regards to the proposed fixed rate billing. I sat back, and with, two other people, discussing, the pros and cons with this. And a lot of the people I talked to were single people, and it felt like they were being, what's the proper word here? Being overbilling for, those who have, couples in the family or multiple residents in the family. They're the ones that are being for. I would like to read from my notes because I'm slightly ahead of myself, and it would help me, stay on track. Concern I have, and that of other ratepayers, is with respect to the proposed fixed amount billing of $195 per quarter. This is not fair for everyone. This type of billing cannot be interpreted as a one size fits all. People who live alone or couples who are very conscientious of their water consumption would be unfairly billed for their water consumption, while those residing as family status will gain cost benefits as per water consumption. I would like to provide 4 possible options in 2 categories. Category A, the ratepayer is given a choice of 3 options that best fits their budget. In category B, the 4th option would be for everyone to participate in. Category A basically states that option 1, continue to pay as per meter consumption and service fees, the current billing practice. Option 2, agree to pay the $195 for proposal, the mixed billing or fixed rate model. For billings are option 3, pay for average consumption from the previous year's consumption and services, historic billing. These options should be given to the ratepayer instead of just go one size fit all. With respect to the category B, this has to go back to the way things were prior to 2005. No consumption billing. Only equivalent service fees are to be billed to ratepayers. And as I said, it's historical past practice of management. As for options number 1 and 3, and I would state that again as they require the meters. With respect to the issue of meters, water meters repairs, those homeowners who choose option 2, they will be asked to voluntarily surrender their water meters. The functioning meters can be stored and used as replacement or for spare parts as needed. Or council, pardon me, can select option 4 and do away with the billing repairs altogether and deal with operational costs only. Whatever the proposed category is chosen by council, I ask that this council instructs administration to prepare a cost of living expense policy, whereas seniors, those with disabilities, and low income recipients are given a discount benefit of 15% or better on the billing invoices. Thank you for hearing my concerns. If anyone has any questions, I would like to try to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Conley. So I would like to respond to everything you said. So the issue with a pick your price kind of model like this is we as a municipality have to look at the cost of our system and we need to reliably recover those costs. So by providing these options, obviously, one would choose the option that benefits the most, and we would find ourselves in the same situation where we wouldn't be recovering the revenue that we need to. So people would, like I said, choose the lowest option, and our revenue would not meet what we need to operate our system. Now, option D, can you explain that one again, the fourth option?
The fourth option is the way Manitou's built for their water supply prior to 2005 when the meters were installed, where they were just billed for operational expenses. And if council wishes to have the residents to use water at their leisure, it would be the most economical and favorable for everyone. Because nobody would be really be prejudiced by paying a high bill, especially single people.
And I want to say that I certainly hear the concern, and I imagine that it's the concern of many here tonight that this change will impact single people as well. And that is an outcome of this change in structure, of course. Now, to speak to your last point about 15% or better discount, our assistance program that is proposed as per the report tomorrow night's meeting includes a $250 annual rebate for low-income seniors or low-income persons with disabilities. That would reduce the annual levy from approximately. Can't hear me? Is that better? I'm sorry. We'll talk into the microphone. So, speaking to your last point about an assistance program, a discount program, there is a $250 a year credit for individuals that are low income with disabilities or low income seniors. That would reduce the approximate annual levy from $800 a year to about $550 a year, bringing it in line with what you would expect a single person to use under the current system.
Sir, with respect to $250 for people, that's usually applied to the property taxes. It was my understanding that this year wouldn't be tattooed to the property taxes. It's a separate entity. That is why I asked for that clause to be put in there, so that in addition to the $250 rebate for property taxes, seniors, those with disabilities and low income recipients can also qualify for the additional 15% that goes to a different entity, which is the utility bill.
Understood. So, to clarify that piece around tax bill and utility bill, this is not a tax increase. It's not an additional tax. It will be separate from the tax line. So all it is using our tax billing to do the utility billing at the same time. It's a matter of operational efficiency. And these funds will be booked separately, charged separately, and itemized separately on the bills. Now, you mentioned the tax relief program. The tax relief program that we have provides relief from increases of taxes to a maximum of $250. That program has not really been taken up much in the last few years because our tax rate has been held steady. This would be a different relief program than the tax program. It would be a $250 a year credit for the groups that I mentioned earlier. It would be separate from the tax relief.
So can you please identify it with those vulnerable sectors that we mentioned? Would they be able to collect on two different programs instead of the one program?
Yes.
So one program would be related to $250 related to the property taxes, and this other program that you're proposing will be relief to the utility bill?
Yes. Thank you.
Just to clarify, that $250 relief program would equal to 31% discount.
The 31%.
That's what it calculates to. $250 off of 800 is 31% discount. So that is, okay, just to clarify that.
Any other questions?
I just want to circle back once more to that fourth option. You mentioned billing for operational expenses. So what exactly does that look like? I just need a little bit of clarification.
Well, everything from, as soon as the water from the, drill holes, the wells, hit the pumps to the point to where it goes to the curb end. Any cost, services required to maintain that, that would all be taken into consideration and then, build proportion.
Understood. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dunham.
I have a question about that $250 rate.
Can
Is that,
you use the
oh,
microphone so
sorry.
everyone can hear?
I have a question about the $250 rebate. Is that per household or per individual?
It's a good question. Something to think about.
Okay.
Something to look into.
So it should be even.
I would say that it's likely it would apply to household.
Is there another question? Yes, can you stand and state your name for the record?
My name is Phil Carlton. And I sit down.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Carlton.
Reason you're doing all this is to have more money available to be able to handle the cost to keep water coming to us. Is it the idea?
So just to clarify, it's not, this won't increase our revenue. This has all structures that council has option for tomorrow are revenue neutral. So they will not, they're designed to not increase the amount of revenue that we take in. Now, of course, there's a redistribution, so some will pay more, some will pay less, but ultimately we will take in the same amount of money at the end of the day.
But some people will be paying more money if you go up into a rate like that. And you're offering $250 back. I wanted to suggest something different or something that can be looked at. The town is getting better. It's growing. Properties and houses are going up in value. You have homes and properties that are being torn down. And when properties are being sold off, whatever the bid may be, why not incorporate that into helping increase our town, but the different expenses it's having? By that showing that new value, this town is coming up in value. Instead of letting them go for cheaper prices, increase those prices, and we help offset the new expenses that we're running into to maintain the town.
Yeah, so one of my goals coming into this position is to look at our vacant properties and sell whatever vacant properties we have to those that will use them and pay taxes on them. And of course, getting the right price for any properties that we sell. So are you speaking about township properties that
Well,
we're?
the town is looking for money, obviously, for your expenses, whether it be roads, all the different things you're incurring being an older town. And there's new expenses coming all the time, it's costing you for everything. Why not those properties that are being, and houses being torn down, they've done their job, it's over now for them. And this is new property now that's coming available for the growth of the town. It's worth more, than before. And it should be let go cheaply, it should be, if it's going to be going to someone else's hands, joining the properties, it's worth more money, it's worth considerable more money. There's another way of getting income for your town.
So you're speaking about vacant lots that are sold to neighboring?
That's right.
Okay. That's something to consider for sure. It is our policy and practice to obtain the best price for land based on real estate consultation. But that is something valuable for us to keep in mind.
So people that have jobs, you're making 100,000 or whatever you're making now or more. They have a constant income coming in and increases in their wages. People that are retired on fixed incomes, they don't have that. That isn't the same thing anymore. They're reduced down to very low amounts of increase in their incomes. To take that from them and give them whatever it was, $250, that might not even begin to cover what they're paying now for water. If they're paying less, because they're being conservative and they're being careful on their expenses, it still may not be fair to them. The rest of us that have incomes coming in and increases every year in your contracts and all that, it's obtainable for you to be able to handle a little bit of an income or increase in your expenses. For them, it's a hardship. Each one. Anyway, I just want to, I saw the insurance that you offer for the 6% or whatever it is, $6. And I thought, well, what a fantastic idea. Too bad that wasn't done a long time ago. I don't even know how you were doing it for that price.
It's actually through a third party. It's
That's
not,
fantastic.
it's not through the township. We advertise it and stuff, but it's actually through a third party. And they're worldwide, so that's why they can offer such a low rate.
Anyway,
Thank you.
okay.
Is there another question? Please state your name for the record.
Randy Barnes. I just have a couple of questions. I sat on council in 2005 when this water meter system was passed. I can assure you it's quite a contentious issue back in 2005. When we set up this program, it was set up strictly by the amount of water that was pumped to the wells, treated or distributed to the sea, and broken down by cubic meter, and that's how we came up with the cost. Several years ago, another council added a flat rate fee on top of the water usage that was supposed to be put towards maintaining of the system and maintaining of the water. That was never initially put in. It was done several years later. So we have 1,000 water meters now, roughly.
Approximately.
Yeah. $40 is their quarter.
Yes, sir. 48.16.
So my first comment is that rate should more than cover the cost of maintaining the water. My concern is that my water bill is well in excess of my home, is well in excess of $195. I'm fine with that. I use water as I require. I can afford to pay my bill and I'm okay. I've never complained about the cost of water in this community. I guess the concern I'm going to have is if we're going to offer a 33% discount to people on a fixed income, I'm going to pay that. Because the municipality's got to come up with the money somewhere. So if resident A doesn't pay the bill, we have to pass the expense on to resident B. There's no free money anywhere for anybody. It's going to come from someone else. So we're going to start penalizing people that are, maybe they're not on a fixed income, but maybe don't have a huge income. Now they're going to start paying for other people. The whole idea of getting into this pay per use water system was to make people responsible for what they use. I was in favor of taking the cost of garbage collection revenues, the tax rate, and having a bag fee. Because I put out one bag of garbage and some people put out 7 or 8. So if we go back to this flat rate, we're going backwards, we're not going to go. The $48 a quarter that we're charging 1,000 residents should more than cover the cost of maintaining those water meters. And having people pay for what they use. That's what the system is for, and that's how it was designed.
understand the new council and they get to make decision on what decisions they make. But I think we're moving the municipality backwards by doing this, by having people pay for other people's usage. The second question I have is that there's been no mention of commercial and multi-residential buildings and how that will be built. And I have concern about that as well.
Okay, so the first question was just a general question about the flat rate portion and how that should be used for water meters. And just the idea that it's a step backwards to move to a flat rate. So this is actually a good time for me to dip into this presentation that I prepared regarding our costs. Now, there are a lot of misconceptions about the flat rate portion of the bill. I've heard it referred to as a water meter maintenance fee, an administration charge, etc. It's none of these things. The idea behind a flat rate portion of a water bill is to account for the flat expense portion of administering a water and sewer network. This slide and pie chart is a breakdown of our water system expenses in 2022. This large portion here is professional fees that we pay to the Ontario Clean Water Association. Those fees do not vary with the amount of water that we put out and supply to residents. Salaries and benefits associated with staff that do work on the water network also do not vary with respect to consumption. Infrastructure amortization, same thing. Other materials and supplies, same thing. These small sections, same thing. Electricity is the one portion of the water and sewer operation costs that is variable. That's a summary. The sewer system is similar, however, there is more variable cost with the sewer system. Our electricity costs for the sewer system are about 16%, whereas vast majority is in infrastructure amortization, professional fees to Aqua, salary and benefits. There's a summary. Now, the idea is that a flat rate portion of a water bill should capture the fixed expenses and the variable expenses, the electricity costs that rise with the amount of water we put out. Those are the costs that should be metered for. So this is the total of both water and sewer costs. 89.78% in fixed expenses, 10.22% in variable expenses. Therefore, to match revenues to the costs of this system, we'd be looking at collecting about 90% in flat fees and 10% in variable fees. As I just said, that 10% portion should vary directly with the amount of water used, and then the remaining 90% are fixed costs that should be distributed, because those are the costs of the infrastructure, those are the costs of the network. Those costs don't change with the amount of water we put out. So a flat rate program with no meters is not ideal. It would be great to reflect the increased cost of additional consumption. However, this increased cost is very, very minor compared to these fixed costs. So minor that a water meter program, the cost of the water meters, the cost of the water meter maintenance, the cost of the administration associated with building on a metered system, these are all costs that we're incurring to keep track of this 10% of expenses and how it's distributed. The next slide is a projection of what a fair water meter program rate might look like. Based on our target revenue, the billed consumption estimated based on 1 quarter, it would be a $205 quarterly flat levy to every water user and a 91 cent per cubic meter for water use. This would be even worse than a flat rate levy with no meter component for single residential. Commercial industrial, multi-residential, they benefit greatly from such a structure. So I hope that that sheds a little bit of light on the flat rate portion and what it's for, what its purpose is, and how it should be modeled, should we continue with the meter program. The second question was regarding multi-residential. Those rates, proposed options for council, they are part of the agenda package that just went up on Friday. They're available for viewing online. And I'll note that the single residential rate was set based on single residential revenues and equalizing that across different households. The commercial and multi-residential rates, with some adjustments with respect to the highest users, which are paying astronomical sums, those follow historical billings or aim to follow historical billings. There are 4 different options the council will be considering more on it. Imagine you may have a follow-up on the first part.
I do, and I just, I looked at your explanation of the flat rate. That's not how it was initially intended. That's not how it was built. And that's not how it was advertised to the residents. It was advertised as recovering the expenses of maintaining that water building system. And it was all inclusive, right from distribution into the house to the meter to the billing costs here in the office. That's what that flat rate was advertised as, why it all of a sudden showed up on people's bills. You have a completely different explanation 10 years later of what you feel that flat rate is for. But you want to go back to when that flat rate was initially introduced. It was initially introduced as a maintenance expense.
Thank you.
Okay.
It's understood, and these funds should have been budgeted over the years for meter readings. Right now, we're doing that.
Right.
If I could just note. If I could just note one more thing. We'll let the next speaker go. I'm sure it'll come up.
Can you please state your name for the record?
My name is Doug Pollard.
Thank you, Mr. Pollard.
Okay, I just want to get a couple, 3 questions. One, I don't have a problem with the putting money back into the system and it's better for our community. The key word come up in your in helping that was the $250 credit up to. So I don't know what would be entailed to I just know that keyword means that you have to qualify to different steps to getting and how that will be displaced. The second question will be a lot of people I talk to, because I don't drink the water, I don't shower with it. Honestly, I don't use it in a lot of my cookware because it tends to damage them. So I'm wondering about the drinkability of our water. And my third question is, I don't understand it, like meters are being taken out and new ones are going in, and how much of this applies to like the actual structure and infrastructure of our sewage parts of it to getting roads fixed. Because I would really have no problem at all if I seen a lot more down the roads and that infrastructure.
Thank you. So the first question was about eligibility and what criteria there would be. So it would be recipients of OAS or recipients of ODS would generally qualify for this assistance. As far as drinkability of our water system, the water is very drinkable with one caveat, and that is those that are very sensitive to sodium. Our water has high sodium, so drinkability for those with sodium sensitivity, maybe not, but otherwise drinkable.
Would that money from this be something like help resolve some of that?
Yes, so the total cost of our system is approximately 1.2 million a year for the water and sewer. And we collect shy of $1 million in revenue. So there is actually a portion of the taxes that subsidize the water and sewer system. These revenues would continue to be used for our water system and sewer system. And another item about water meters is that it's an infrastructure expense. You know, every dollar spent on the water meters is a dollar taken away from other infrastructure. And of course, the distribution of those costs, the distribution would be higher on higher users and lower on lower users.
Well, again, like another concern is like, you know, a lot of it kind of unforeseen is, you know, like the cost of food and everything that, you know, surprisingly went up a humongous amount across the board, cost any kind of business to charge more. So I think that's another reason everybody's looking at this so much so. But they are my questions. My notes.
For sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Foley.
We can answer the part of the, excuse me, the removal of the water meters, because it will not be necessary.
Right, yes, removal of water meters would not be necessary, would not be something we would be embarking on. If there was some kind of issue with your water meter, then give the township a call and we'll deal with that on a case by case basis.
Is there another question?
I haven't been to it, Bay Carlton. I'm concerned about the quality of the water. People sitting there with water bottles, and this high salt content is really bad for people's health. High blood pressure and heart conditions seem to be prevalent here. We came from drinking well water, and it was crystal clear, and it didn't have this high salt content. And I wonder what's being done about that, since we're talking about raising the rates, and that rate raising would give us, we'd be paying at least $50 more. We can serve, but I can see there's going to be a big difference if you do flat rate. There's going to be so much wastage. I don't know if you're going to really save anything. And then what, next year you put it up again, the flat rates. Once you're in a system of flat rate, then you can do that. And that's what I see, you know, up and coming. And number 3, have you tried to get any grants for infrastructure for this new infrastructure? And also, I wanted to know what's the polling so far? Because people were on the site, were giving all this thumbs down, and I kept saying, you've got to go on the site and you've got to vote. So are you going to vote on this tomorrow night?
Council will receive a report and determine next steps at the council meeting.
So I just wondered, does anybody have an idea what the polling rate has been so far?
Yes, so through my Manage Watch, the polling is 51% in favor of a flat rate and 48.5% against the flat rate. So it's pretty much equally split.
And it's understandable that such results, we need results, given that we're moving towards a flat rate that is in the middle. Those that will be paying more opposed and those that will be saving support. That is something that we expect.
I just wonder if people have inherited. So I know different people have moved, and all of a sudden they're paying really high rates. They're paying already $250, and that's strange when they're not overusing water. Why are they paying that? And maybe it's because the meters are not working right.
An interesting fact about these water meters is they are not regulated in the same way that trade devices such as scales are. The federal government actually regulates and checks the accuracy of gas gauges, scales for trade. Water meters, there's no such requirement. Now, we're not aware of any accuracy issues other than meters that fail and don't work. But again, I'll say that they're not regulated to the same degree that scales and gasoline pumps are. If I could speak to your comments about rates going up and flat rate going up over time. The usage rates and the flat rate under our water meter program have steadily gone up over time. I don't believe that it would be any different whether it's a flat rate or a water meter rate. These rates do tend to increase with time as costs increase. Second, the grants. We do have infrastructure grants. We do have infrastructure funding that's earmarked for infrastructure, and water meters would qualify. However, $3 spent on water meters is $1 that isn't spent on our roads, water pipes, sewer pipes instead of meters.
I have one follow-up comment for you, Mrs. Carlton. If you are aware of a resident who feels that they're paying too high in their water bill, it could be a leaking toilet that could cause that, or a dripping faucet. So the best advice you could give them is to contact Public Works, who will go and send staff over to have a look.
Because I have looked into it with Chris Towns previously, and my son was paying so much more than us, one person. And we couldn't understand it. He didn't even have a washing machine for 5 months because we were waiting on it at the time of COVID. So I questioned him about it. And I said, I'm concerned that he has a water leak and he's in housing. And he said, well, if the meter is running and you're not running anything else, then you've got a water leak. Well, I checked it and it wasn't that. So just one more thing is about the commercial fees that the previous person speaking had mentioned it. So I don't think that was addressed in the commercial category.
I did address it in saying that those rates are part of the agenda package that was posted on Friday. So it did go up recently, but it is publicly available as of Friday. And in this report, you can see 4 options that have been provided to council. I'll go into those options a little bit more. They don't speak specifically to the commercial industrial as much as how the overall total rates were established, but option A is a status quo option where amount collected from single residential stays the same, amount collected from multi-residential stays the same, and commercial stays the same. Oh, there are some changes within groups, of course, but the total stays the same. Option B is a 2.5% decrease to the revenue collected from residential and corresponding increases to revenues collected from multi-residential and commercial. And then a 2.5 and 5% respectively increases to the single residential revenues collected. What these rates look like is approximately $197 a quarter, $192 a quarter, $202 a quarter, and $207 a quarter. Now, as far as commercial industrial, those rates were set to follow historical billings as much as possible.
And so as far as the high volume of salt we've got in this water, has there been any research or anything to try to rectify that? Because we're all drinking bottled water.
I am not, but maybe Tyler can speak to.
On the spot here, I don't have a lot of information as for the sodium, but it's something I can reach out to offline and then get us. So I don't have a lot of info with the salt content, but like I said, I can reach out offline and see what the recommendations are. So I think it's been occurring for quite a long time, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe it's naturally occurring, but I don't know the details.
But I honestly don't know how to treat it or what they can do. But I can look into it.
And you could reach out to universities and make that some kind of study. They're doing that all the time and they're looking for projects. So I think it's something to look at. It's not a good quality. It may be clean and not, but it's the salt content that's causing problems.
The fact that it's naturally occurring is probably the issue. That's what's hard to treat, but something we can look into. Certainly.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Alex Martel. So I just wanted to speak real quick in favor of the flat rate. I missed the beginning of the meeting. I'm sorry if that's been done. First off, I think if you guys are talking about $200 flat rate, you're looking at less than $75 a month. For a life-sustaining resource delivered into your kitchen on demand. On it, so considering we paid $14 a month for Netflix. 75 for water seems reasonable. A follow-up on the mystery large bills, as someone who just paid $600 water bill for last quarter because I had a slow leak. Fix the leak, problem solved there, but the flat rate obviously resolves that issue altogether. If there's no increased cost on the city for that increased consumption, then it's kind of a win-win across the board. With the exception of the water table, however, we're not bottling out water and exporting it, so it's actually finding its way back into the water table anyways. And yeah, with the numbers that you presented, it seems entirely reasonable to me to just find flat rate. It's also more in line with what larger cities and I think there's all the places I've lived, it's always been flat rates. Don't know what the 4 proposals are that are being looked at tomorrow by council. But perhaps something else to be considered could be like an average building like the hydro does, where you look at that specific households, average usage over like 12 months. And that way those who are on average using a lot less, pay a lot less. But again, there's administration costs to doing that calculation, and keeping up with that. So yeah, thanks for looking at this. I'm glad I got to speak for those of us with young and probably growing families. But you know, if we're paying this much now, prices only go up, and if there's more people in the houses, they go up even more. So flat rates must be anything that's.
Thank you, Alex. And just for clarity, I just want to let the folks know that you're a staff member of ours, our greenskeeper. I just want to let you know that.
No, that's fine.
It's all good. Just wanted to let everyone know. Thank you.
No, we don't use the town water system to the golf course, we just drop them along.
No, I do just want to clarify that Alex mentioned the $75 increase a month, but it's.
I'm not increased, sorry, that would be the 195.
Right. Okay, thank you for clarifying. Is there another question? Please state your name for the record, please. Thank you, Mr. Plummer.
First off, I appreciate what you've done. I think it's probably the most thorough and equitable way of dealing with the issue. One question I do have though is, for the current funding, the proposed structure, eventually, when we place the subsidy, then I think, then
So can you repeat the last part about the proposed system?
I think I'm right to translate.
Okay. Thank you.
I couldn't catch it. What did you say? Is it residential?
Will the fixed rate replace the subsidy from the general tax?
At this time, no. So you're referring to the approximately $200,000 subsidy? Yes. So as I mentioned earlier, our costs are about 1.2 million for water and sewer, and we collect approximately 1 million in revenue. So Mr. Plummer's question is, will this new system close that gap and make it so that our water and sewer system is fully funded by water and sewer charges? No, it will keep the revenue the same. So we'll continue to collect that approximately 1 million, it's actually 957,900.
Another question if I may. The term fixed income,
The term fixed income was used, what does that, does a pensioner apply to a fixed income?
When we use, I don't think we use the term fixed income with respect to the assistance program. Is that what you're looking at? In general, oh, fixed expenses or fixed.
Yeah.
Fixed income.
I'm a pension.
Okay, gotcha.
So
No, it depends on whether you receive OAS benefits or not. OAS benefits are for lower income seniors, and that's the qualifying criteria to be considered a low income senior for the purposes of.
And since I'm translating on Bonnie Farm, and I have a comment. We've lived in town since 1979. And I worked at the hospital, worked 12-hour shifts. And I would go to work. And I would have to see water sprinklers. Sprinkling the road, the lawn in front of them, and it would be a week. And when I came home after 12-hour shift, the water sprinkler would still be going. And when I go back for my next 12-hour shift, water sprinkler was still going. When they put the water meters in, I didn't see water sprinklers anymore. Everybody stopped watering the yard. In fact, I knew of someone who would cook their vegetables and use the water from them to flush the toilets so that they would decrease their water. So I anticipate that there will be a lot of water usage. But if people are abusing it in some way, what are the ramifications for them?
That's a great question. Thank you. We have a bylaw on the books. It's a water conservation, water wasting bylaw. Now, this bylaw has not been enforced since the water meters were brought in because the water meter does all the enforcement. If you want to use water, you're going to pay for it. Under a flat rate program, we would go back to enforcing that bylaw. In that bylaw is the provision that you're probably aware of, that you water your lawn and use water outside, washing your vehicle, watering your lawn on even days if you have an even house number, and odd days if you have an odd house number. That bylaw would be enforced if we move to a flat rate. Further, this bylaw does specifically outline that letting water run waste is an offense, and there is an associated penalty which we will administer. I think there's room for detail in the bylaw possibly for council to consider for watering. So as an example, you can have a sprinkler running for no more than 2 hours. There are avenues that can be explored with respect to conservation and preventing waste of water. Preventing needless waste of water is something that this council is, I can't really speak for council, but I'm sure that this council and this administration is interested in preventing. We want people to be able to use the water system that we have available to us. We don't want people to run water.
And I also have a comment for people that are seniors. They want services in this town. They want home care, they want nurses, they want all of those people. And there are a lot of geriatric people doing those services, like we need young people in our community. And if you have to pay a little bit of extra for the water, so their family, they will move here with their families, then it's money. That's
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Plummer. Is there another question? Ms. McDonough? You have another question? Okay.
Mr. Deputy Treasurer. Question I have right now is more of a moral issue. How much money does the township pay to whoever in order to take water from the ground?
Good question. I don't believe that we pay a license to take water. We have a permit to take water from the Ministry of the Environment.
Yeah, for the
and
Stephen.
Natural Resources. I don't believe there's.
Yes. And this is where my comments coming in as a moral issue. You're taking something that doesn't cost anything to produce, and you're charging people for the consumption of it. This is the moral issue that I'm trying to raise. There's other cities that have built aqueducts early in the 19th century that find it morally wrong to charge the residents for consumption. They do pay for the infrastructure, the service fees from the input right to the output. That's understandable. I'm not denying that. I know what business is about. But if there's no cost to, a necessity of life, how is it morally right for the township to bill people for something that they don't have to pay for in the first place?
I agree with you, Mr. Donnelly, that a consumption-based charge would be a moral issue. And if we're charging a flat levy for the infrastructure, that would not fall under charging for consumption of a freely available resource. Is that what you're more or less saying?
Well, I understand, but this is more or less information for food for thought. So when you're trying to find out what option is the best fit, think about management and our reputation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Is there another question? Yes.
I'm Rose Bible, one of the poor people in town.
Thank you for coming tonight, Ms. Gordon.
And I pay a water bill roughly $86 every quarter. And if you increase it to the 200, that's 100% increase approximately. The last bill I ever had was 119. When you get a $250 back, if I qualify being senior, I would still be paying a 10% increase. That sounds like a lot. Especially when you're in low end. The other thing is, did you consider with the flat rate, people using more water, that's going to use a lot more sewage area too? There's a lot of people, be putting that 1 or 2 pieces of clothes in the dryer and washer instead of a full load. Be running it up more water on their main time. And I'm sure a lot of it was going down to wash one dish instead of waiting till you get a sink full. So was that considered when you figured out the cost of property?
Yes, we looked at the variable and fixed costs, and the variable cost is minimal. So that variable cost, the electricity, those small portions of the charts there. The cost of increased usage, we don't anticipate there to be a great deal of increased cost. There will be a small increased cost. It will take more electricity to pump more water.
I'm not talking about water and I'm talking about sewage.
Sewage is the same thing, electricity.
Got all the bill.
Electricity is used to pump through our sewage system. So yes, with more sewage discharge, there is more cost, but the costs are very small compared to costs that don't change with amount of sewage or water.
Okay, with all the pinholes that's been in the lines of this town. Thunder Bay was being sued by several thousand people because of what they used in it was causing the pinholes. And it was something to do with salt and some other name that I couldn't pronounce. Do you know if you have ever used it cause the pinholes?
So what I believe for our failures is copper has a license to inspect to see something that's 50 years. We're coming up on a lot of it. A lot of the piping in some older areas. We're just coming to that point for light up the fire. I don't think it's necessarily caused by usage as to more climate.
Well, they eat the whole of the copper lines.
Yeah, so here I haven't seen anything that's actually eating the holes.
The other thing is, when I had my house in Lindsay, they came out with a new rubber hose that expandable so that winter freezing, it would not freeze the lines up, or if it did get ice in it, it would expand and not break. And we looked into replacing our lines with those.
There's definitely when it
It was
comes
a
time,
farmer that told me about it, it's just new the last 4 or 5 years.
definitely as technology is better, there's always better ways to do things. As it comes time to change things, so we're definitely looking at better solutions, even a big thing we can have, it's some pipes, so put them in. I think that helps you.
But I am against that higher flat rate. Unless there's larger amount of these kinds of seniors. Like my aunt, one is they going coming up, it's their taxable income 17,000. So you're looking at a good portion. of your income. And if a person can't fill out the bill, pay their bill? Is it gonna be added on their taxes? Would you do a flat rate, how's that gonna work?
It would be on the tax roll. So it would be part of the tax roll. Just like that, that's no different than the current practice though. Water bill arrears do get put on the tax roll after a certain period. So there's no change there.
Because folks don't want to be like that, but there are people who.
And of course, I just want to put out there that, Treasury Department, we do work with people who's falling behind with respect to repayment arrangements. We are flexible and.
Great. But that's all for me.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Parker. Is there another question?
Like that, one more question.
Okay.
Sir, my name's Doug Pollard. I'm curious, again, how much of this is going to, like, I guess, the sewage half of it? Because, again, I know it's in dire need of any repairs, and you were saying it's coming due. So is this something we should be budgeting for? Because, like, just how much? Because I don't know how much they relate, and the ones is the transport system of the other, and so.
So considering it's in that, I don't want to say it's in dire need. There's certain sections of town that are older and newer. The stuff running out to where we're doing is newer piping. As for infrastructure, we're always looking in budgeting for infrastructure repair and looking forward at doing that. Not a lot of it now. We definitely are looking at upgrades. Something we're always working towards.
And would that be available on the website that we could see projections of where we think we're heading? But
So I can speak to that. We do have an asset management plan that is on the website. Now, asset management planning is a major area of attention for the provincial government and for us as a municipality. In the past, asset management planning has not been front and center as much as it is now, and it's becoming more front and center because many municipalities over the years have favored tax decreases over maintaining infrastructure. And as a result, many municipalities are facing infrastructure deficits, meaning they don't have budgeted funds put away for when the water mains break or the roads fail and need repair. Manitowoc is in a reasonable position with respect to our asset management, and we're going to continue to look very closely at budgeting for infrastructure as we head into our budget process and plan for the future.
well, that's exactly what I bring it up, because I know, like, even the water system was put in 20 years, nobody's gonna think about it. It's not really budgeted for it, but again, with everything increasing so rapidly across the board that I think it's something that we need to pay closer attention to, because it can help us, plan for bigger events, especially if we're on, single dwelling and single people in a dwelling, and we only have that X amount of dollars. So. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there another question?
So I could just circle back to a few items. The first item is something that's come up that I didn't really see much to, and that's penalizing users for leaks. So if you end up with a leak in your house, you can end up with thousands of dollars, and that's what we realize that you have a leak. Not penalizing users for leaks is a major benefit of the flat rate program. Flat rate in similar communities is another area I wanted to just draw everyone's attention to. If you look at communities similar to Manitowoc in our area, you'll find that all of these communities have flat rate systems. The reason is there's an immense administration and infrastructure maintenance cost with a water meter program. It may be feasible for Thunder Bay, or Sudbury, or Toronto, but for a small administration like Manitowoc, the costs and burden of it are major, and that's why similar communities see flat rate systems. Finally, the meter program is a program that we've been running in the wintertime for those that experience freezing of pipes and burst pipes as a result. There is a significant amount of overhead with that program because of our water meter program. Under a new flat rate system, people will be able to turn on a meter if they're subject to freezing. And there would be no need to arrange an appointment for Public Works to come and put it on, and arrange an appointment for Public Works to come and take the meter off. So these are just a few pieces of food for thought.
Are there any other comments? Questions? So everyone is welcome to attend tomorrow night's council meeting to listen to the discussion. And the meeting starts at 7 o'clock. Typically they're on Wednesday, but because of quorum, we had to move it to tomorrow, Tuesday, 7 o'clock p.m. here in council chamber. I appreciate everyone coming out. I appreciate the respectful discussion and your thoughtful questions. And we look forward to hearing more information from council tomorrow night. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.